Today was a special day for those who closely follow Taehyung. From early in the morning, it was known that he would be at the airport for his next trip. He wasn't the only one there, many other people were also present that day. What caught our attention from the start was what happened just as Taehyung arrived at the airport. Before getting out of the car that was transporting him, he stood for a few seconds looking inside the vehicle. It was a brief gesture, as if he were saying goodbye to someone who remained inside. Although there is no direct evidence of who was there, many people on social media began to comment that Jungkook could have accompanied him to that point. The idea is not far-fetched. On previous occasions, the two have been seen sharing rides in the same car. Jungkook even frequently accompanies him discreetly when it comes to important trips or commitments abroad. For those who closely follow his story and his movements, this possibility makes sense. They have shared many similar situations before, and although they aren't seen together in every image, the silence also communicates closeness. Several people who were present decided to record the moment. Taehyung looked relaxed, and his outfit was elegant, simple, yet stylish. He dressed comfortably and attractively, proving once again that he doesn't need a big production to stand out. Every step he took was closely followed by fans and reporters, who were already waiting for him at different points in the airport. The images quickly began to circulate on social media. Unfortunately, not everything that happened was positive. While a certain number of fans were expected at the venue, as is usual whenever a member of the group travels, this time the situation became somewhat more chaotic. As soon as Taehyung arrived, several fans who were already there began running toward him, trying to get too close. Some security guards tried to control the situation, and his manager also intervened, but at times the scene was difficult to handle. In the videos that have been released, you can see how cameras, cell phones, and lights completely surrounded Taehyung. It was a somewhat awkward and cramped situation, both for him and his team. Some fans pushed each other to get a better shot or a closer photo, disregarding the artist's boundaries or safety. There were even reporters who, in their attempt to get the best picture, blocked others' paths, generating even more tension. These types of situations aren't new, but they are still worrying. BTS as a group has always spoken about mutual respect between themselves and the audience, and Taehyung, in particular, has been very clear in expressing the importance of personal space. Admiration shouldn't overstep the boundaries of respect. It's natural to want to see them up close or capture a memorable image, but it's also important to understand that they deserve to move calmly and safely. Taehyung, as always, remained calm, but it's still worrying when something like this happens. We all want to see our idols up close, but it's important to remember that they also need space, safety, and peace of mind. It's essential that we learn to support our artists responsibly. They give us so much with their music, their performances, and their closeness. The least we can do is respect his space and his private moments. What happened at the airport left us feeling so emotional. On the one hand, the joy of seeing Taehyung so cute. On the other, concern for his safety and sadness at seeing some boundaries broken. But there was also that special thought that Jungkook could have been there, sharing that last moment with him before leaving. During the recent airport departure, Taehyung's arrival caught the attention of numerous media outlets and fans. Although security managed to maintain reasonable control for most of the time, there was one particular situation that highlighted the risk artists can be exposed to in public spaces. Amid the excitement of the crowd, one of the security guards had to intervene firmly when a fan got too close. Such scenes wouldn't be necessary if the onlookers' behavior had been more cautious. The company didn't announce in advance that Taehyung would be traveling, possibly as a precautionary measure. However, the media was already aware of his departure, and numerous people had gathered at the venue very early on. This excessive exposure demonstrates a still lack of awareness regarding the privacy the group members deserve. Fortunately, Taehyung wasn't alone. He was accompanied by several members of his security team. Had this not been the case, the situation could have gotten out of hand. The protection he received was essential for him to get to his vehicle safely, although the scene itself reveals a problem that has recurred on other occasions: the lack of clear boundaries when idols are in transit. Later, Taehyung addressed his fans via Weverse with a brief but powerful message. He wrote, "Army, you know this, right? Let's be more cautious next time." With those words, he expressed his discomfort with what he experienced. It wasn't a direct criticism, but rather a kind way of asking for respect and consideration for his well-being. Situations like this may seem common, but they are much more serious than they appear. Imagine, for example, that in the midst of the chaos, someone trips, falls on another person, or cuts off the artist's path. Any accident could have consequences. If Taehyung had lost his balance while getting into the vehicle, a fall could have resulted in injury. These actions affect not only the artist but also the people around him. That's why it's important to remember that admiration is also shown with respect. Recognizing their personal spaces is essential for them to feel safe and protected, even when they're off stage. Furthermore, it's important to note that these types of incidents not only reflect a lack of control on the part of those around them, but also excessive pressure on public figures. Taehyung, like other members of the group, deserves to be able to move around freely, without feeling invaded or unnecessarily exposed. Although Jungkook didn't speak publicly about what happened at the airport, it's likely that, as in other situations, he was aware of what had happened and attentive to Taehyung's safety. There is a fluid communication between them that has been evident to many, and while they don't always express it openly, the care and attention between them have been captured in multiple moments shared over the years. When observing scenes of this type, it's important not to focus only on the chaos of the moment, but also to reflect on the emotional consequences this can bring. The mental and physical health of artists deserves constant attention, and even more so when they're part of a couple as closely watched and analyzed as Taehyung and Jungkook. Respecting their privacy, both individually and as a couple, should be a priority. Each of them has demonstrated commitment to their fans, but they also need spaces where they can move freely. The confidence Taehyung has shown in expressing himself publicly demonstrates his desire to maintain an honest connection with his fans, but without sacrificing their well-being. In the future, it would be ideal for both fans and the media to understand that supporting an artist also means protecting their privacy. Love and admiration are not measured by physical proximity, but by the ability to understand and respect their boundaries. Just as Taehyung spoke delicately, it is also the task of the fan community to respond responsibly. And although his message was brief, the meaning behind his words is clear. Caring for them also means distancing ourselves when necessary. Taehyung and Jungkook have a special way of communicating. They don't rely on words to understand each other. When they're close, their body language speaks volumes. They hold hands, touch each other's shoulders or backs, and look at each other in a way that shows care and attention. This kind of behavior isn't common among all the members of the group. It only happens between the two of them. It doesn't matter if they're on stage or behind it. They're always looking for each other or approaching each other naturally. There are times before concerts when you can see one helping the other calm down. Sometimes it's a massage on the back of the neck, other times it's a simple touch on the arm while they talk softly. It doesn't seem planned. You can tell it comes out without thinking, as if it's a habit they've had for a long time. Some people think this is part of the show. But there are details that can't be faked: the way they look at each other, the calmness they convey when they're around each other, and how they support each other in any situation. Nothing about their way of being together seems exaggerated or forced. Everything is very natural, as if they don't care that someone is watching them. There's also evidence that this doesn't just happen in presentations or in front of cameras. In more private recordings or behind-the-scenes content, they continue to act the same. They get close, listen attentively, and support each other with small actions that show trust. These signs aren't part of a script. They're real gestures that show their relationship is constant wherever they are. What makes this connection stand out is that they don't need to do anything big. A brief touch or a long glance is enough to understand each other. This way of communicating without words isn't common, nor does it build quickly. It requires time, closeness, and a kind of bond that is only seen when there is a deep relationship. Each person knows what the other needs in important moments. This goes beyond a simple routine. It shows that they are used to looking out for each other. The language they use without speaking is something that identifies them as a couple, and not as colleagues who just share a job. When talking about Taehyung and Jungkook, people often try to explain their behavior as part of a show. However, there's a very clear line between what's done for the audience and what's effortless. In their case, every gesture between them seems sincere and unpretended.